What's up? Check out this blunt and honest review from the Jock and Nerd Podcast. That's us. My name is Imran.
My name's Anthony.
He's the jock.
He's the nerd.
And he's the rug boy.
What's up, guys?
Jock and Nerd. Okay, fellas, let's get to this week's review. We will be looking at Mission Impossible 2 from the year 2000. Here's your spoiler alerts.
Strap yourselves in, you fucks. Spoiler time.
How do we get here? Anthony, can you explain why we're doing this movie? What's your rationale?
What's my rationale? Yeah. Well, in 2 weeks, we are doing the Last Reckoning, Mission Impossible.
Final Reckoning.
Final Reckoning, Last Reckoning, Dead Reckoning, Part 2. Yeah. You wrecked it, you bought it. I mean, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like
I'm going to wreck it. Wreck it.
Whatever it's called, we're doing that movie. And we like to occasionally do the old classics that inspire these sequels. And originally, I had thrown out there doing Mission Impossible 1. We did talk about it briefly in our 90s action movie
it was
tournament.
It was a runner. Yeah.
But I vividly remember Imran saying Mission Impossible 1 is boring.
It's a little boring.
And I agree, it is a little boring. Brian De Palma, but it definitely not what it became.
Right.
And then Rugg suggested the Mission Impossible 2, John Woo, because it's crazy, and we all agreed, and here we are.
I think it's perfect to look at arguably or the worst Mission Impossible movie before looking at some of the best shit as the franchise panned out. But yes, this is the second of 7, soon to be 8 movies of a franchise that started in 1996. Sequel to first Mission Impossible. It's 29 years this franchise has been around. It's fucking crazy. On Rotten Tomatoes, here's why I call it arguably the worst. It's 57% tomato meter. The audience gave it 42%. So this is the lowest tomato meter out of all the Mission Impossible movies.
Letterboxd had it at 2.7 out of 5 stars.
Ooh, yeah, that's low. That's low. This is number 7 out of 7. Highest rated one was the last one, Dead Reckoning Part 1 at 96%. This movie came out May 24th, 2000. Nice. Almost exactly 29 years ago. 29 years ago.
29 years ago? What are you talking about?
Sorry, 25 years ago. 25 years ago. I was still thinking of the first movie. It was 1996.
I mathed it.
The math.
I made a math.
It doesn't math. The math ain't
2000. Almost May 24th, 2000. Exactly 29 years ago.
It is the 25th anniversary of this fucking movie. The budget of this movie, about $120 to $125 million. So what's crazy is despite the low Rotten Tomatoes numbers, this movie finishes with $215 million domestic, $546 worldwide. It is the number one worldwide box office of the year. And then
546 million.
And at 215, it is the number 2 best of the year domestic. Anthony, what's some of those 2000 movies we had?
Oh, shit. I wasn't prepped. Give me a second.
I got a link in here. Because even though it was 2000, this is like a retro review. I mean, it was 25 years ago. It was a different time. It's a different time, right. Different place.
So if we're looking at movies that calendar year, number 1 was How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Wow.
Number 2 was Mission Impossible 2. Number 3, Gladiator.
This is the year Gladiator came out. That's right.
Number 4, The Perfect Storm.
That's a good movie.
Number 5, Meet the Parents.
Comedy.
6, X-Men.
And that's huge. And there's a tie-in to this movie, to X-Men. Yes.
7, Scary Movie.
Great.
8, What Lies Beneath. I don't remember that movie at all. Number 9, Dinosaur.
I don't remember Dinosaur either. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember that movie at all either. 10, Aaron Brockovich.
2000, not a bad year. You had other
movies.
There's other great movies.
Quick. Nutty Professor 2.
Yeah.
Charlie's Angels.
Yeah.
Big Mama's House.
Yeah.
Remember the Titans.
That's a good movie.
The Patriot.
That's a pretty good movie.
Gone in 60 Seconds.
Nick Cage.
Scream 3. Hollow Man, The Green Mile, Shaft. Yeah, those are some of those.
You had other comedies, Me, Myself, and Irene. I remember that being pretty big. And Castaway, this is a pretty impressive year here. 2000. So with that take, it's the second best opening. It has the second best opening weekend and domestic for the franchise. and it's the 5th best worldwide for the franchise. It's kind of interesting. This one directed by John Woo, who up until this time had a run of Hard Target, Broken Arrow, Face Off, and starring, of course, Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt in the second go around. Now, Tom Cruise's run from the first Mission Impossible, he does Jerry Maguire, Eyes Wide Shut, and then Magnolia, and then this movie, and then Vanilla Sky, Minority Report. So, not a bad run for Tom Cruise in the late 90s, early 2000s. Also starring in this movie, Dougray Scott as Sean Ambrose, rogue IMF agent, Thandie Newton as the female love interest thief, Nia Hall. You got Ving Rhames as Luther, Brendan Gleeson as McCloy, and a couple other people. Dominic Purcell was in this small role. I don't even remember seeing him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he played Ulrich. Who was Ulrich? Oh, it must have been one of the thugs. But there's your main cast. Music by Hans Zimmer. This is PG-13 movie, 2 hours and 3 minutes. Anthony, give me, first of all, how many times have you seen this? Is this your first or second time watching this movie? What's your history?
This was my first time watching it in full.
Oh, snap. Okay, fantastic.
Yeah. I wasn't a Mission Impossible guy.
Yeah.
I still wouldn't consider myself a Mission Impossible guy, but I'm a late adopter. So I haven't, like, for example, I haven't seen, up until yesterday, I hadn't seen 2.
How many of the 7 have you seen?
I saw 3 in the movie theater, but I was in senior year making out with the girl I was dating the entire movie. Sure. So I don't remember that movie very much at all. I haven't seen 4.
Right.
And then I've seen the rest.
Okay. So what happens in MI2?
MI2, Ethan Hunt is tasked with a mission, if he shall so accept, where he has to track down a stolen virus and the antidote to that virus that could kill the world. And it was stolen by an was it UHF, UMF? IMF representative?
Yes.
Yeah. So he has to work with Anthony Hopkins and a good-looking lady to get this stuff. And it's directed by John Woo, so doves and pigeons are everywhere.
Yeah, well, let's just get into it, Anthony. Opening thoughts. This is a John Woo movie. What'd you think first time watching this one?
I mean, it's stupid. It is very dumb. It is very 2000s. It is it's very John Woo.
John Woo.
I think at this point in John Woo's American movie making career and just his overall career, it could be argued that he'd become kind of a parody of himself. Like he'd been just doing the same things in every single movie.
Yeah.
It's silly. There's plenty of times where I went just like, this is ridiculous. But I liked it a lot more than the first one, and I had a really good time.
Yeah, following John Woo.
But you have to know going. I think this is the type of movie where you have to go in and go into this going, especially if you haven't seen it for the first time. You have to go and say, they didn't really figure out what the formula was yet for Mission Impossible.
Right.
And this is a John Woo, Tom Cruise movie.
It's not a Mission Impossible movie. It is a John Woo movie.
First and foremost, it's a John Woo movie. So if you go in with that mindset, I think you'll have a good time. If you're not familiar with John Woo or don't really have a taste for the things he does, then you'll think this movie is really stupid.
I mean, there's a lot of face-off in this movie, and he had just done face-off.
A lot of everything.
A lot of everything.
Yeah,
a lot of everything.
It's all John Woo's
It's everything.
things that he loves to do.
So, Ruggs, now this clearly, we haven't gotten to it's the start of the death stunts for Tom Cruise, I feel a little bit. He doesn't really get into it that much.
He's rock climbing.
He's doing some free climbing. There are still stunt doubles. But what did you think of this movie when you first saw it and now? And is there any way
I fucking love this movie when I saw it.
Okay.
When my little, I don't know, I was 20 years old or something.
Yeah.
When I was 20 something, like maybe 25, I think, or something when this movie came out. And I was like in my mid 20s and I fucking loved this movie. And I had watched a bunch of John Woo movies. I was into John Woo. Yeah. I was into this shit. I was into fucking all this shit. I was like, oh, this is going to be like what takes Mission Impossible in another direction. It's going to be like an action franchise. It's going to be Tom Cruise doing action movies, and he's wearing a black leather jacket. He's wearing black sunglasses like Neo.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's all the shit that like trench coats and sunglasses and slow-mo out the ass. This kind of slow-mo gave Zack Snyder the biggest boner of his life when he watched this. I don't know. I loved it when I was a kid. And then when I watched it a couple times later, I was like, whoa, this movie is really bad, but I still kind of like it, like Hard Target.
Yes.
It's like it has the same charm as Hard Target. Not as much. It doesn't have Jean-Claude like kicking somebody and then shooting them at the same time, but like it's still hilarious in its own way. And I even like how the bad guy's like the hardest part of being you is grinning like an idiot all the time. So there's self-aware shit in there too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I liked it. Fucking Anthony Hopkins is in there for no apparent reason.
I forgot to mention Anthony fucking Hopkins. I was like, what are you doing in this movie?
They fucking dance with cars.
Oh yeah,
they make cars dance.
Yeah. So I went through the same kind of thing. Like I think when I first saw it, it was John Woo was hot, right? I got discovered Hard Boiled, and then Hard Target and Face Off. And I was also in my 20s.
If a movie had a guy with two guns jumping sideways
and shooting, you were like, yes, I'm all in.
This is what I live for.
Yeah. And then I remember watching it years later and going, ugh. And then I'm watching it again now, and it's very John Woo, but there are aspects of this you can enjoy. Like I think the third act, some of the action is ridiculous, but it's super enjoyable. This is a movie where the plot does not matter at all, and it's so contrived and convoluted. There's so much staring into each other's eyes.
Yeah, it's very melodramatic.
Melodrama. And like Dougray Scott's not even like the best villain at all. But some of the fucking shit at the end, when I watched it again, I was like, okay, he's spinning and flipping and kicking. And what I think is hilarious is Ethan Hunt never uses any of these fight moves ever again.
No.
In any of the movies. He just forgot all the martial arts.
He just loves flip spinning and leg drops and kicks, and it's
how long is that fight scene at the end?
Yeah, they're punching each other.
First of all, they run the bikes into each other.
What were they gonna do there?
The bikes explode, then they fall off of a cliff and land on fucking hard sand, and then they're fine. And then they start beating the shit out of each other for another like 10 minutes.
None of the physics actually works in that whole scene, if you think about it. And I was like,
this is the type of movie where the Fast and Furious watched it and we're like, hey, we can get away with doing that stuff. Look at this.
Yeah, we can blame John Woo for Zack Snyder slow-mo.
Oh, yeah. This is the whole Fast and Furious franchise. Like, use this as a blueprint for sure.
Absolutely. No, the physics there. I think what I'll add, though, is Anthony Hopkins is in the movie. There is, like, we can get to some of your thoughts, Imran, your questions. But I want to say there is, like, good John Woo sexual chemistry in the beginning with Tom Cruise and the girl, where they're in the tub and they're on top of each other and they're talking like super close face to face. I thought their little relationship, like, I bought in right away. Like, they just want to fuck each other.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. I thought the action scenes were fun. There were plenty of times where I laughed just because Tom Cruise is doing Jean-Claude Van Damme, and I thought that's hilarious.
Yes.
I also had to laugh when Anthony Hopkins shows up, and then it's a ruse, right? So the girl's a thief, but they don't actually need her to be a thief. They need her to be the new girlfriend, or replay the ex-girlfriend part to this guy,
right?
To the main villain. And Cruise, I wrote this down. Cruise goes, she's not qualified. And Hopkins, without skipping a beat, goes, to go to bed with a man and lie to him, she's a woman. She's got all the training she needs.
Yeah, that's a great line. That's a great 2000s line. You could never say that now.
Exactly. I was like, this is 2000.
Yeah, it's a very misogynistic film, and and that's fun.
Oh, the 2000s.
Yeah,
late 90s, into this movie's literally 2000, so it's like it's still got that. Yeah, we're gonna be just asshole men and watch a movie about men.
It's a guy movie.
Yeah,
they're not trying to please the female audience at all.
Yeah,
no,
they know that there's no women going to watch this movie unless they're dragged by their boyfriends. So they're making the movie for men. They're making it for men.
Well, they're making it for men, but then they like have the weird, like Tom Cruise has a lesbian haircut and is dressed like Neo for most of the movie. So it's got like a weird mix of like masculinity, but then also he's dressed like a woman, but then he also looks like Neo on a motorcycle. It's like, well, there's so many different things going on here.
I thought that scene is great with their little stealing meet cute where he's onto her. Like, really, it was very cute, and the chemistry works right away. And then
it reminds me of the chemistry that J-Lo and Clooney had in
Get Out or Get Out.
Jesus Christ, No. I'm talking about Out of Sight.
Out of Sight. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Reminded me of that kind of vibe when they were like flirting like that and robbing.
But then I even love he's stalking her in the car and that ridiculous the car chase. Like the car chase is filmed well. There's some fun car stunts, but then they're just double spinning, and then she almost dies, and he saves her, and then they bang. They look into each other's eyes, and there you go. They're in love.
I mean, that's nice how it was simple. In the 90s and early 2000s, that's right? Like the hero would save the girl, and she'd be like, let me take off all my clothes right now.
And the opening is great. I mean, after you get through the plane bit with the Chimera and the Bellerophon.
Oh, well, but you also get one of the worst CGI shots of a plane you'll ever see to start, where they just the established shot, and you're like, oh, this is that era when they figured out they could make things with CGI.
Yeah.
They didn't realize how bad it looked.
Yeah,
and they thought, well, if we just throw CGI on there, that's enough, right?
Yes, it's a little dated.
A little,
but yeah, the plane crash, and they say Chimera and Bellerophon a lot. But then Tom Cruise free climbing in Utah, right? So, like I said, he had wires on. They just took the wires out, but that's him hanging there. He does do that jump. He tears his shoulder during that jump. Couple of the scenes, there's stunt doubles in there, but I think it's hilarious. It has nothing to do with the rest of the movie, and you're just like, it's just to look cool.
You know, they're playing
Limp Bizkit.
No, they're playing Iko Iko.
Oh,
as he's climbing, and that's like a tribute to Rain Man, right?
Oh, yeah.
Do you think this was Cruise being like, hey, Mission Impossible 1, everyone remembers it for that stunt where I'm hanging.
Yeah.
I need to do more stunts? Or was it Woo being like, hey, Cruise, you need to do more stunts? And we're going to do an establishing shot of you just free climbing. Like, whose idea do you think it was?
I don't know. I mean, Tom Cruise did Top Gun and Days of Thunder. Those were like his pre-action. He never really did like an action movie.
Yeah, that's what I was starting to see. Is this his first time getting in his action chops? Really, kind of.
Yeah, I think this is where he's like, I'm going in with the biggest action director. I'm going to like kind of change my whole vibe and be an action star. So I
think it was both, and I feel like they both egged each other on. Here's what I know: the guy who wrote it. Robert Town, I think his name. He has said, he wrote the screenplay. He has said he wrote around the action scenes that they wanted to do. Robert Town wrote the screenplay. Ronald D. Moore actually worked on the story. So Robert Town said, I wrote around these action scenes that came to me with. Tom Cruise also lied to the insuring company and told them all the stunts were going to be done by a stunt team. And they obviously weren't. And he had to fund some of this movie himself because they were going over budget and it was taking too long and Paramount was freaking out. So this is like the beginning of him starting to make this franchise his like passion project to see how far he can push it, I think.
Well, I mean, it shows, right? Like there are elements that they do take from this and from the first one, but more so even from this with like the stunts and the jumping out of planes and all that kind of stuff. That stuff carries over later on where it's like, okay, this is now a thing in Mission Impossible where we have to put him in these death-defying situations. Like
he's like skydiving through a fucking thing.
Yeah, right.
It gets exactly. Bigger and bigger.
Yeah, like he's diving through the vent at a certain rate. Now it's obviously CGI, but like I think this movie like crawled before Mission Impossible could run.
Yeah,
where it's like, our thing that makes us different is like, it's these missions, right? Which is from the TV show, these obviously impossible missions, but it's also what kind of crazy scenario can we make Tom Cruise like risk his life in?
That's true.
Yeah.
And that kind of starts here more so even than that first one, where the first one was him dropping from the roof and not trying to get like sweat on a keyboard.
Yeah, that was like the big action
that was
scene.
like the big stunt here.
There was like a
Yeah.
train scene where he's on the top of a train.
Right.
But it wasn't like it wasn't, you wouldn't call that an action movie. It has action in it, but it's not like a traditional, like, this is a John Woo movie. Like, John Woo is the king of action at this time in the 2000s, right?
Yeah.
Before the Wachowski brothers kind of come onto the scene, and before there's a couple of other directors that are coming onto the scene, like, that are known, like McTiernan he's a player. You got all, but he's like old school. We have like this new school Hong Kong thing coming in,
Yeah.
where there's Asian influences and their sensibilities of, you know, they don't have like the insurance problems over there. They just fucking throw people off buildings.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, like Jackie Chan, just jump off a roof.
Yeah.
Like, so it's a whole kind of, it's a way more daring way of making films, and the reality goes out the window. You don't fire two guns at the same time. It doesn't make sense. You can't aim.
This motherfucker is driving a motorcycle in a front wheelie and shooting accurately and spinning all at once without missing.
Yeah, and it's
amazing.
Like, this is about being creative with action. Yeah. This is about making it more than just a guy shooting somebody, but making it a moment, right? Making it a theatrical, cinematic thing. And yes, you got to throw realism out the window when you're doing it sometimes. But I think that because John Woo brought all that stuff, and all of these Hong Kong directors brought a lot of that, like floral stuff into it, like flourishes and the style. Like, we picked up on a lot of that stuff, and now we've been able to kind of move to where, yeah, we can have some of the cinematic action happen, and Mission Impossible is doing it better than ever now. So they've taken this and they've applied it and maximized it. And you have people like John Wick. There's some of fucking this in John Wick.
Absolutely, the spinning and the shooting flourishes and
well, I think like Wick,
the hair,
yeah.
Well, I think like this movie, when I was thinking about like this movie in the grand scheme of action movies, I think this movie clearly is like the end of the line for Woo, and like that style in, like, I think that era almost ends with this movie, where it's like this like over the top action. Like, there are some like B movies that still continue that. Like, I would argue like the Statham films still do some of that
Fast and
stuff.
Furious,
yeah, but
the Matrix.
Those films more were like started getting even more fantastical, but not like, it wouldn't be like shoot, slide across and shoot and have pigeons flying out. Like, it would be more like, what kind of stunts can we get in? What kind of quips can we say? So I think like here, like, there's not a ton of like there's some quips, but it's not quippy. It's more like Woo's a style.
Yeah.
And I think if you look at like the movies that came out after from Woo,
like,
none of them are like all that relevant anymore.
No.
Like, this is literally like the last American movie he makes.
Remember, he disappears for a while and goes to China for the.
Well, that like we all talk about and can like review and be like, oh, this is a great time. Like, I think this is clearly.
It really is. If you look, outside of those Chinese movies. I mean, recently, with Silent Night and The Killer were both not good. And then after this, he does Paycheck.
This is literally like his end in terms of like a mainstream guy that we talk about, like that non-action movie, like non-hardcore fans would like know about.
That's true. That's kind of crazy. Yeah. And then he like goes back to China, does these Red Cliff movies, and then doesn't do anything for a while. I love that Luther is in this. I think he's in every single one. And then it isn't. Yes. And then Simon Pegg, I think, joins in the next movie. They build this team that's still with him, which is great. So the problem for me is the structure of this movie, because all the action is in like the third act, and there's a large part of this movie where his slow motion and his melodrama just kind of slows it down, right? The whole thing.
There's a lot of slow-mo,
a lot of slow-mo.
So much slow-mo. They're just staring at each other for hours.
But how amazing is Tandy Newton?
She's great.
She's very pretty and does a great job.
She's a good actress.
She is, yes. I forgot she was in Westworld. She was really good in that.
She adds charisma. Yeah. Her daughter was in the Last of Us. She was Pedro Pascal's kid.
Oh, she was Sarah.
Yeah, and she looks just like her mom.
Oh.
But she's going to be in that new How to Train Your Dragon movie.
Dude, I saw
I think
that.
her name is Nico.
That trailer I saw in IMAX, it looks stunning. That looked like a good time. Live action How to Train Your Dragon. But they do things like this whole horse track scene where like she's stealing the memory card and it's got pickpocket him and get it to Ethan, who gets it to Luther, or downloads it, gets it back to her, she puts it back in his jacket. It's just, I get it. It's espionage. But he knew she was doing that, right? The whole time.
Yeah, he totally knew. He's an IMF agent. He knows what's the fuck's going on.
So this bad guy's kind of a step ahead of Ethan.
He's like Tom Cruise, bad Tom Cruise.
And
I think the movie, though, like, just to like talk about why it slows down a bit, I think Woo, that's where like the incongruency of this franchise and Woo doesn't make the most sense. Like, I don't think John Woo doing an espionage thriller is like really his wheelhouse. He's more like straight up, like, let's do like either a kooky premise,
right,
but like leading to like a clash, or like let's put someone in a situation where there's thousands of guys and he's gonna gun everyone down. But when you like take him out of that and you put him into like, okay, now we got to work in the espionage and all that stuff, and then you're doing all the John Wooisms of like slow-mo and all, and like operatic music when the fake Ethan Hunt dies.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny to me, but it, like, I can see why people would be like, that doesn't work at all.
You know, how many times did people put the Ethan Hunt mascot in this movie? It was getting a little annoying.
The guy is like a foot taller than him, too.
Yes, you guys got some
it morphs your height, for sure.
Yeah. Everybody was Ethan Hunt, and she falls for it. Sean Ambrose, Ethan Hunt twice, and she falls for it.
But the thing is like John Woo, he likes to make movies about characters and relationships. Like in The Killer, it's like the detective and the guy, and then the girl who's blind.
Yep.
And there's a lot of melodrama that goes on. Like, The Killer's not all out action all the time.
Right.
There's a lot of like slow moments in that film.
But the guy always wants to save the girl.
Yeah, so I think that this is all baked into John Woo doing the movie.
Well, even like, go ahead, sorry.
No, I think that it's just he's going to spend time on this shit, unfortunately.
Well, I think like that works, right? So even like Face Off, it's a lot of the movie's just about these two men and the relationships they have with their children and like lost like it's a lot of like family stuff, and that all works there. Whereas this movie, he doesn't really have anything to like really get melodramatic about. Right. So he just kind of still gets melodramatic, and it's not like like the relationship Ethan Hunt has with that girl isn't as deep as the relationship that Nicolas Cage has with his surrogate son in Face Off. Like, there's just not as much depth there to mine. So when it gets super melodramatic, it's really just kind of cheesy.
It's hilarious because the first time he sees her, it goes right into slow-mo. All the music drops out. It's just like they're intense staring from across the room. It's fucking hilarious.
I loved there was like at least two scenes where they cut and you look at, they have the eyeballs of the character, and you can see the reflection of what's happening in their eyes.
So many reflections in eyes in this movie.
Oh yeah, there's reflections
the
everywhere.
Sunglasses and the eyeballs. He loves that shit. So let's talk about the action, because I feel like it doesn't pick up until the whole scene where he's got to drop in through the vents. He's got 40 seconds to clear the cable. That's great, right? It's obviously, it's not a practical stunt like he does later, but good tension. Of course, the cable clears just perfectly, doesn't get caught on anything.
They throw a clock in there where they're not going to be able to contact him for 5 minutes.
Yes, then there's, 8 minute while the generators are on. Huge shootout. Lots of glass blowing. Lots of jumping and sliding with two guns. It's fucking fantastic. Here's some of the hilarious shit that John Woo does that I love. How about that scene when Luther is in the van and the guy puts the bomb under the van? And Luther, how does he know there's a bomb there? He sees the perfect reflection of the digits in a puddle on the sidewalk through the rear view mirror. Just all perfectly lined up for him.
Isn't it great?
To see. And then he gets caught. He can't get out. Almost gets blown up. And I was like, oh my God, that's fucking.
He was definitely dead.
That was fucking hilarious how he saw the perfect reflection. And then, and then you get the whole bit where she injects herself with the thing, right? Now you have another ticking clock.
Right.
of 20 hours. And there's some crazy shit here because he just leaves her. He just blows a hole, jumps out the building, and
it always cuts to her like wandering through the forest, like contemplating suicide.
That's the other thing I didn't get, because Ambrose's plan was to leave her in the middle of Sydney so that when after the 20 hours, she dies, she's going to infect everybody.
It didn't make any sense.
And then the next thing you see her, she's walking through the fucking woods at the coast on the cliff. I'm like, how the fuck?
She head to high ground. She got a cab and got the fuck out of there.
Well, no, I'm more like Ambrose. Why the fuck wouldn't you have someone with her? Because your plan just went to shit.
Yeah.
She's gonna die by herself, and no one's gonna need the vaccine. Yeah,
you need someone guarding her and watching her. How about that video of what Chimera does? The different stages that
it kills you in 30 hours.
You're okay for the first 20 hours, and then by hour 30, you look like me. I think I have this disease.
Yeah, they show like a sequence of the guy at 20 hours, at 27 hours, at 30 hours. He looks like the Crypt Keeper. So
by 37 hours, I was like, oh, maybe that's what I have. Why do I look like this person?
Yeah, you're just loaded with Chimera.
Also, you get great drone shots in a John Woo movie. He does that great.
You get to learn about Greek myths.
Oh, yes. You get to learn about Bellerophon and Chimera. And then some other great moments as Tom Cruise breaks in, right? And he runs through a group of pigeons and does this reverse flip kick, utilizing both legs. The first leg kicks the gun out of the guy's hand. The second leg kicks him in the head. Can you do that?
Guile does it.
Is that actually...
Yeah, John was like, we're going to do the fucking Street Fighter kick. All right, we're going to do it. We're doing it. I was
like, those physics work. But I do love when he blows the door and then you see him walk past the fire in the background. And then you see a dove fly through the door. Where the fuck was this dove? And then Ambrose is just run that bastard down.
Yeah.
All what you're saying, like, we think as action movie guys, we think it's funny. And it's good, and don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it. I do think this movie, I'm glad it's fucking made because it's hilarious. But I also think like John Woo's American movies prior to this were like his wheelhouse, and I think putting him with like a bigger franchise like this, I don't think it made the most sense. Like, I think
no, it doesn't. It doesn't at all. But like, it just imagine. I don't even know how to even go about it. You take a something that actually had some prestige, like,
right.
Brian De Palma, he's a good filmmaker, and he made this movie a beloved TV show.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you just get like fucking John Woo, who's making Hong Kong films and, schlocky films about like people swapping faces.
Yeah. Coming off Face Off.
And like a fucking guy with a mullet, like just cocking his leg and shooting it like a gun in the fucking
in Hard Target.
Yeah, in Hard Target. And now he's making this movie. I mean,
it was a big hit though. Surprisingly,
it's like putting Albert Puyun on like.
You know who was originally attached to direct this early on? They wanted to go
Albert Puyun,
not Albert Puyun. They were going to go from Brian De Palma to Oliver Stone for a hot second.
Far different film.
Yes, they went to go from Oliver Stone to fucking John Woo. It would have been a completely
like the closest that you would get is to get Mick G. Remember Mick G?
Oh yes, Charlie's Angels. It does the same year. Yeah,
yeah.
So
I think Mick G was like trying to imitate John Woo.
Sure.
And
I think a lot of these guys.
Which movie's more silly? I think Charlie's Angels is definitely more silly.
I mean, this would be like. I'm trying to think of a modern equivalent, and this isn't the best equivalent, but I'm just going to say it anyways. This would be like Gareth Emery, who's done The Raid.
Oh, Gareth Evans.
Gareth Evans, excuse me. Gareth Emery's a DJ. Gareth Evans, who's done The Raid and all that stuff, and they're like, hey, we're going to make a sequel to Sinners, and we're going to give it to Gareth Evans. Like that's kind of how I feel like what this feels like is like, let's get this like
I would watch that
very niche action director.
Yeah. And
give him a big project that like has some critical acclaim.
It's like, let's give James Gunn Superman.
See what happens.
Somewhat.
Another great scene is when he fights that dude Stamp, and then you just see Stamp drag, Ethan Hunt tied up back, but you notice he's not opening his mouth and mumbling. This is odd. Oh, it's the old switcheroo, of course. I don't know why Ambrose, who had played Ethan twice, didn't catch on to this sooner.
Well, that's where they play the operatic music when he gets
and then
quote-unquote killed.
He shoots his right-hand man. But
it is so melodramatic.
But then a great shot because he grabs the virus and the antidote and then rips the face off and he's fucking running. He's off and running.
Tom Cruise is running.
That's what, and then it kicks in as he's doing some slow motion upside down shooting stunts, which are fun. And then just motorcycles out of nowhere. The motorcycles just
let's get them with these motorcycles that are not dirt bikes.
They're like crotch rockets.
Yeah. These are like road bikes. And they're just driving them on the grass. So I'm like, what the fuck?
Also, though, like, think about, like, logically, they're on these motorcycles, right? They're both wearing leather trench coats.
Yes.
Those things are fucking getting caught in the wheel, and they're both fucking dying, right? Immediately.
Yes. You learn a couple of things here. Like, if you shoot at a guy on a motorcycle, he'll just fly back instantly. Also, if you...
how many times did that motorcycle that Cruise is riding on get shot at and still just work okay? Like, he uses it as like a shield at some point.
Yeah, he's sliding around on it and shit.
And it's just fine, like ready to go.
I will say the stunt work here, there is a moment where he's doing a bike jump. Luther is firing RPGs to the car on the bridge. It's exploding. He's riding through the fire. Like, that shit was dope. I was like, this is fucking great crazy. Right here. Like, just some cool fucking John Woo shots.
I mean, it's literally the same thing he does in Face Off where they're on the boat and the boat jumps through the fire with both of them on it.
Yes. Except this time, it's a
motorcycle.
It has a motorcycle finale, and you got him doing a front wheel wheelie and spinning and shooting and doing smoke screens and just riding on the side of the bike to avoid getting hit. It ends with them playing chicken, driving at each other. They jump over each other for some reason a lot. Jump up in the air. The bike has a bullet in the gas tank, so the bikes explode. But then they're pushed off to the side for some reason. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, they land on the fucking sand, and then they start this like 10-minute long fight scene.
Like, who can punch harder? Who can punch longer? And
not only that, what's the bad guy's name? Ambrose grabs a rock.
Yes, he
hits him in the head, hits him in the stomach.
Yes.
The only blood you see is from the knife wound to the face.
So Ambrose pulls that knife, and you get this is a great shot where he's on top of him, and that knife is just centimeters away from his eyeball. Like, that shot is fantastic. Behind the scenes of this, did you read about this? Tom Cruise wanted to use a real knife. They rigged a knife with a cable so that Dougray Scott could actually put all his force, and they had a cable that was just long enough that it would just clear the top right above his eye. If that cable had snapped or anything moved, that would have been it for his fucking eye. They could have used a fake knife. And this crazy motherfucker's like, no, I want to use a real knife. Just tie it to a cable. But the result is it's a fucking cool ass scene. The close up of the knife.
Yeah, it's a great shot.
The eye is crazy. And then you see Ethan Hunt just favor these crazy spinning kicks in this fight. And again,
it's like Jean-Claude Van Damme light.
And it just made me realize he never fights like this ever again in any other movie after this. What happened?
Because John Woo's not there.
Is this... Let's get away from the end here. Do you think this was like, where do you rank this with John Woo's American movies? And I'm talking, the four I'm talking about are Broken Arrow, Face Off, Hard Target, and this. I almost feel like this is like probably third or last, but it's still a damn good time.
You know what? I'm with you. I would definitely put Hard Target right on top, and then I'd follow that with Face.
Oh no, Face Off.
You think Face Off?
Face Off. Like Ruggs said this one time, and I agree. Face Off is opera.
Okay, yeah. He does have the gold guns.
It's an opera.
Yeah. I mean, you got Nick Cage grabbing choir girls' asses.
Yeah, that's true. And screaming.
I also think this is an opera, too. But I also think that Hard Target is also an opera.
I don't know. So Face Off, Hard Target, and then this one. That Broken Arrow is definitely
Broken Arrow is like the weakest, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I would rather watch this than Broken Arrow.
Yes.
The action's more satisfying. I feel like it just has more oomph to it. Has like it's slicker, it's bigger, it's more bombastic. But Hard Target and Face Off. I mean, Face Off was my favorite movie for a long time because it was just so ridiculous. I was like, I just couldn't get over that movie. Like that they fucking had the balls to do that movie. It was like, it's like so much hubris. They're like, we're going to make a movie where we're going to have two guys switch faces and you're going to fucking love it. And I did. And it was fucking crazy. And then, like, Jean-Claude Van Damme in Hard Target it felt like something in his wheelhouse, at least. It was just to the max. It was just exaggerated. But, like, what John Woo did for Nick Cage.
I think he sold me. I think Face Off is probably the best one. Yes. No.
Yeah. I think what John Woo did for Nick Cage and made him an action star, and even John Travolta, he put him in 2 action movies.
Yeah.
It's almost like a Tarantino effect, right?
And then like he did like Swordfish and all those other movies, like all that, the Paris with Love or whatever, all those other fucking.
I mean, if you watch Face Off, we've talked about it before, but the depth of both of their acting, where they have to act like each other, acting like each other,
it's fantastic.
I mean, it's just there's so many layers to that.
It's
movie.
fun.
Yeah, it's very complicated.
I just found a John Woo AMA Reddit on Reddit, and one of the first questions, I'm just going to read this because I think it's something we're all curious about, was someone asked, "What's the significance of the repeated use of white doves in your work?"
Okay.
And he responded, John Woo, "I think the white doves represent purity and spirit. White doves are a messenger from God. They are noble creatures with many symbolic meanings. When I was in middle school, every Sunday, there was a service at my church. I was tasked with drawing a poster, and I used white doves for it all the time. When I was making The Killer, the story is about a cop and an assassin. Each of them has their own ideas about justice. I was trying to come up with an idea of a montage to show their righteousness. When I was shooting the final sequence, I had this idea to have white doves flying past the candles to represent the precious spirits within them. I've been using them ever since, and sometimes when I don't use them, my crew will tell me, 'John, we have to use the white doves.'
Where are the
sometimes
doves?
I use them because the crew said so."
Oh my God. So I decided to just do it in every movie I ever make for the rest of time.
Because that's got to be confusing if you don't follow John Woo. I was thinking about this, and you saw this movie.
Yeah.
You'd be like, what the fuck is with the pigeons and doves?
But I get it. Like his explanation makes sense, and it's a thematic thing he's carried through, but it's just a signature. It's, you sign a painting. This is a signature John Woo thing.
Oh yeah, it's like a John Woo thing. There's just gonna be doves everywhere.
Doves.
Yeah.
Crazy like hard cuts to zoom in on things.
Yeah. Reflections.
Reflections. Back to back sometimes where the characters are talking to each other, and then double guns, right?
Guns,
those are a lot of John Wooisms, slow motion.
And the melodrama. You can't forget about the melodrama, the over dramatic thing. I got a couple of fun behind the scenes things, but I do think it's funny. Like it ends kind of on a happy ending. Like he's with the girl and they make out in a park and they walk away. And what's funny is we never see her again.
Yeah, she just disappeared. I never mentioned her. Yes, and then in the next movie, he's married to a completely different
person. In fact, nobody in this movie returns in any of the other movies except for Ethan Hunt and Luther.
Right.
That tells me that everyone at the time was like, "This movie sucks."
Yes, it doesn't
we
count.
Gotta get away from it as far as possible.
Absolutely correct. They were distancing themselves,
even though it made money.
It was a huge hit for the year. It made money. So, they cure her, blah, blah, blah. Ambrose isn't dead. He tries to shoot him, and then Hunt does the cool kick the gun straight up in the air from the sand, turn around and shoot, whatever. The soundtrack. I
love that, by the way.
Whoa, that final gun kick.
Yeah, because he can't just shoot him. He's got to kick a gun up in the air. You see, the dust come up.
He's got to grab
and he spins, and he's grabbing it, and then he fires.
He's got to spin and fall down and shoot.
Yeah.
So there's a weird...
He was probably going... Cruz probably watched Hard Target and go, well, I can't light someone up and then spin kick them in the face.
Yeah.
So what can I do? And he came up with that. Not nearly as cool as spin kicking someone with 7 bullets in their chest, but still not bad.
But still, he didn't let him just go out with just a one shot.
Right.
So there's this one windmill kick he does at the end in this fight scene. He actually clipped Dougray Scott on the chin for real, and they left it in. They used that take. You kind of
you see him his
react.
head go back.
Yeah, you see his head go back. You see Tom Cruise react.
I think Godzilla would have been proud of the drop kick that he did.
A lot of flying kicks, a lot of drop kicks.
Well, he'd be especially proud because he'd go, "You didn't even use your tail.
Yeah, you didn't need a tail.
Yeah.
Tail slide.
Here's how you know it's the 2000s. On the soundtrack featured Limp Bizkit, Metallica, Rob Zombie, Kid Rock, Foo Fighters, Buck Cherry, Tori Amos. But they play that Limp Bizkit song, and then like all the guitar music is just so.
I love it.
I do like it. I like when they do the theme in the guitar music.
Dun, 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 dun,
You know what? You know what movie this kind of bookends well with? Desperado. Like they're both ridiculous, louder than just crazy.
That's was that Robert Rodriguez?
Yeah,
similar. All these guys were inspired by John Woo's Hong Kong movies in the 90s.
Yeah, they're all inspired by Woo.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, what's cool about this movie too is like you watch it, and like the issue with a lot of action movies, like if you were like look at the ones now, is they're all paint by numbers, right? Like there's not really a ton of personality. That's not this movie. This movie has a ton of personality, and when you watch this movie, you go, I know exactly what era that was. Yes. Like this movie screams late 90s, early 2000s John Woo.
Yeah.
Like right away. Like it's unmistakable what time of what era this came from.
Absolutely. And it makes you nostalgic for that era a little bit. So here's some fun notes behind the scenes. If you are fans of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, well, you have Tom Cruise to thank. Oh shit. Dougray Scott originally cast as Logan for 2000's X-Men. This movie went over budget, started shooting long, and Tom Cruise convinced him to stay and finish. And he gets out of X-Men, and the role goes to Hugh Jackman. And the rest is history. And I don't know if he would be kicking himself in the butt now, because look at Hugh Jackman's career. And I don't know what the fuck Dougray Scott's been doing. I know you just watched a movie with him in it, Rugg, so we'll talk about that later. But aside from that, his career doesn't. What do we think of him? I didn't think he was the greatest bad guy, and I can see why he would have been cast as Wolverine.
He would be terrible,
but he would have been horrible.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that Tom Cruise fucked that up.
No,
I think that he's just like he's a fine character. He's a fine actor. He was fine,
serviceable. Is what I would think.
Yeah. Wasn't the best bad guy for this, and like he's.
I think that's another thing. If we're gonna be critical of the movie, it doesn't have a bad guy like that you can really sink your teeth into and be like, oh, he's horrible, right? Like
he killed a whole plane full of people.
He did,
but he's just not. I want to look at that guy and be like, man, I don't want to see that guy. Like he doesn't seem. He seems like the type of guy that like uses a bidet or something like that. Yeah, he's not like.
No, I mean, but he is a pretty big piece of shit. Like he knows that this girl's there under false pretenses.
But they use her like
completely use her,
and he uses her.
But that's I think that he knows she's there, but he finds that out when he like hangs or when he puts on the Tom Cruise mask, and then he takes it off and he starts weeping like a little baby.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh,
come on.
Like this guy
doesn't love you. You don't think she loved you? Don't love you.
You know when he's like try the dress on and she took off her pants and he just like makes that face like he just jizzed in his pants.
It's negative.
I think he says like we'll try it on later.
He's like, oh, what's the rush? Yeah, and then whatever they don't show us what happened.
You know what happened.
So I think we dodged the bullet. Thandie Newton was supposed to be in Charlie's Angels. And her role ends up going to Lucy Liu, also because this thing went over budget and you can't walk away from a Tom Cruise production or he'll just have you killed or something. I don't know. Yeah. Very powerful. Ian McKellen turned down the role that eventually went to Anthony Hopkins. So, and he was in X-Men too, so that would have fucked up an Ian McKellen Magneto. So I'm glad he did turn that down. This is the only Mission Impossible movie to actually say the words Mission Impossible in the movie, which is also kind of funny. Anthony Hopkins says it. And it's the only Mission Impossible movie where he's still working with the IMF and not actually on the run. It could have used more running. He runs a little bit, but he's still on good terms with them in this movie.
The original cut was 3.5 hours.
The original cut was 3.5 hours long. Yes.
Wow.
And this movie's already too long, even once he trimmed it down.
What did they cut out?
Remember when Metallica sued Napster? It all came out of the sound, the track from this movie that got leaked to the radio. they tracked it back to Napster and then filed a lawsuit. So this movie you can thank for Metallica suing Napster. Apparently, Alfred Hitchcock has a movie called Notorious that's very similar. In fact, some people said whole scenes lifted out of that movie are in this movie.
Not surprising.
I already said Oliver Stone was attached to direct. And yes, nobody else turns up in any of the movies after this except for Luther and Hunt. And yeah, he paid for a lot of this himself. All right. Anyways, final thoughts, Anthony. Give me a number. Where would you put this amongst the ones you've seen?
Amongst the ones I've seen, well. This movie, like I said to start, is very dumb. It's very stupid. I get why people didn't like it at the time. I get why people might not even like it now. I liked it. I think it's a good time. I do think that this is clearly the end of like the John Woo era.
Yeah, it's a good call.
And it was a great era, but I do think, there's only so much runway you can have with making these types of movies, especially for an American audience. This was it. This was the end. As far as a rating, this movie, I know that this is, I don't like when people do this, but I'm going to do it. It's a 7 out of 10.
Oh shit.
That is not objective, by the way. That is very subjective, and that is very much just me the entire time, even though it took me a while to watch the movie, laughing the entire time and being entertained because I was like, even if though this plot isn't the most riveting thing, what thing am I going to see John Woo and Tom Cruise do next in this movie?
Yeah.
As far as where it ranks, I have the first one ranked last.
Yeah.
And I would say this one is right above that.
Yeah.
Actually, I would say I like this one a little bit better maybe than Rogue Nation. That might be kind of blast.
Oh my God, really?
Too. I don't know. I like John Woo. I like John Woo.
Yeah.
But it's not at the top for sure. So I would say like second or third to last. It's not a bad movie. Oh, it is a bad movie, but it's not a bad watch.
Okay, yeah. Ruggs, where are you gonna put it?
In what? In the stacking
Give me
order?
A number and then a stacking order, yeah.
Well, I'm gonna say, yeah, it's probably like somewhere around the 7 too for me.
Yeah.
You could even make a case for a 6.5.
Yeah.
But I like this movie. It's a fun watch. I've watched it like at least 7 or 8 times, and it always works its magic on me at certain points. There's things that I think are a waste of time and not done well, but it is a John Woo movie through and through. In the scheme of Mission Impossible movies, I think this is the worst one. But I mean, the De Palma one's a very boring film, or like not an action film.
Yeah.
I'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
But it's a very good film, good acting, and it's a good spy film.
Yeah.
This is an action movie that wants to be a spy movie.
Yeah.
So it's not the best. A lot of the other ones are great, but I'll probably watch this over Ghost Protocol or some of the other ones, or even the third one.
Yeah.
I think this one's more fun to watch. Has better, more memorable action, has dubs and operatic music and flamenco dancing.
Oh yeah, this flamenco dancing.
Slow-mo. I don't know. It just got something. It got something that evokes like a certain time. Like you can watch a J.J. Abrams one,
right,
and it could have come out today. Like it's just very bland in how it's made. So this is a very 2000s movie, and I like that.
I think it's probably like the sexiest movie out of all of them.
Absolutely.
Right? I will agree with you guys. I'm going to give it a 6.5. And just for the action scenes alone, I would watch this over the first one. I will put it is at the bottom, but I will put this above the first one. The first one, like you said, Ruggs, is a good movie. But like in defense of this movie, there's a way to enjoy this movie. And if you had taken the John Woo training course, you can enjoy the fun and the crazy action. Absolutely. So it was surprisingly, watching it a second time, I really enjoyed the whole end sequence of all the action. I was like, so this shit is fucking dope. I don't care. The story is inconsequential.
Were you stoned when you watched it the first time?
Possibly.
Oh.
I'm always stoned. So the answer to that question is always, were you stoned? Just stop. And it's yes.
Okay.
Why?
Okay, I just wanted to know if like maybe you liked it because you were stoned this time.
I mean,
Or more stoned.
I could do without the whole middle of the movie, right? Just show me like the beginning action and then the whole back half. It's a fun time, but it is out of all of them. Clearly, it's the weaker ones, as I do enjoy Rogue Nation and Fallout and all the more recent ones. But they just became different things.
Yeah, I think that after Fallout, it started to pick up.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all great.
They're all
but
really good. I mean, I might even go back and watch 3 and 4.
Well, I think like Rogue Ghost Protocol kind of revived things,
Yeah.
but then like once they got to the McQuarrie,
yes.
I think they figured the McQuarrie Cruise combination
It's fantastic.
elevated Cruise to like it elevated the franchise. It elevated Cruise to like this daredevil, and it elevated like McQuarrie as one of the modern great action directors.
But even before then, he's doing these. You start to see these stunts, I think, right? In Ghost Protocol, he's on the Burj Khalifa,
Right?
and hanging outside of the plane, and then McQuarrie and him just fucking. They're like, let's just blow it out of the park here. So I'm excited for possibly the final one in 2 weeks. But it was a good looking back at this weird.
listen,
this weird
it's not a
bird.
bad movie. All of them are good.
It's true.
Are fun movies
It's
to
true.
watch. Like this one is not the best movie, but it's actually a fun watch. But all the Mission Impossible movies are worth watching.
Fucking
Probably,
yeah.
probably. I mean, when you're thinking about longest running action franchises, what franchise is more consistent than Mission
Yeah.
Impossible?
Yeah. And it's crazy that it's based off like a 60s, 70s TV show that nobody even knows anymore.
But you can say James Bond has been pretty consistent the past few years. But yeah, I mean, that's the only thing I could think of. That
Well, what's crazy too about Mission Impossible is like this has been 8, 9 movies. What are we at now?
Well, it'll be 8. Yeah. 8.
And they're saying this is the final reckoning, and they're like trying to play up of like all the missions he's had leading up to this.
Yeah.
But like each of these movies, I'm almost positive there was no long-term plan. Like they were just making a movie and being like, "Oh, this is good.
Yep.
Let's make another one."
Yeah.
Like they didn't have this like thought out to be this far.
No, I feel like when McQuarrie started, he does these kind of pair movies, right? Like Rogue Nation and Fallout kind of go together. And now Dead Reckoning, Final Reckoning are kind of going to go together. But for Tom Cruise to be in this consistently the whole 29 years, it's wild.